When we get to the end of all this, we're going to talk about how Freud's theory is pretty crappy. I mean, there's no scientific evidence to prove it. We can't find an unconscious. And does sex and aggression really make us do everything we do? But the reason we can't let Freud go is that there's so many grains of truth. Take, for example, id, ego, and superego. Did you find yourself going, yeah, I get that? I remember when I first found the Pi Dilemma video, I was looking for a video to show my classes that was a nice representation of id, ego, and superego. And Soph was little. She was probably 5 or 6 years old. She was sitting in bed next to me. I had my laptop, and I found this video and I watched it. And she watched it with me. And I remember when it was over, I turned to her and said, "Did that make sense to you?" And she said, "Oh, yeah, Mommy, I totally get it. Because sometimes it's like you want to do bad stuff, but then there's a little voice that says, no, 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 you can't do that." This is why we can't let Freud go. The next thing we're going to talk about is another piece of Freud's theory that I think we see everywhere. And right now, during the COVID-19 crisis, we are seeing tons of examples of defense mechanisms. So let's start with what we are talking about now, and those are what we call ego defense mechanisms. You've probably used that term, defense mechanisms. You explain someone's behavior by saying, oh, it's just a defense mechanism. And you probably didn't realize at the time you were speaking psychoanalytic theory, but that's exactly what you're doing whenever we talk about these things we call defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms are the tricks that Freud said our ego uses to make both of these guys be quiet, right? That devil is screaming in one ear, that angel is screaming in the other, and we sometimes have to compromise. How do we do that? How do we get both of them to just quiet down for a bit? We use defense mechanisms. Your book covers, every book picks and chooses different ones, and I do like the selection that your book uses. So let's go through what those are. The first defense mechanism is called repression. Repression is simply forgetting. Right? It is when that ego is taking those uncomfortable thoughts and locking them away, really pushing them down to the deepest, darkest depths of your unconscious, where you can't access them, right? So something may have happened to you and you don't remember it. I'm going to post a really funny video about defense mechanisms. It's a dumb little song, but they talk about somebody who's afraid of dogs, but who doesn't remember being bit by a dog as a child, right? That would be an example of repression. And really, if you wanted to kind of go back to that strategy I always talk about making flashcards and what's the key idea, repression, you could put on a flashcard, repression on one side, and on the other side, it's forgetting. And so if you're going through test questions and there's an example where somebody has forgotten something, it has no memory or awareness of something, Freud would call that repression. That would be the defense mechanism. The example your book uses, which I'm not a huge fan of, is about a person being in a car accident, and then they have no memory of the accident. Modern science and medicine would explain that maybe in terms of a traumatic brain injury, things like, or other types of things. But Freud would say, no, it was too disturbing. So you just shut it down. You put it into the deepest, darkest depths of you where you can't get it anymore, down in your unconscious. So repression, simply a fancy word for forgetting. Next up is displacement. Everybody understands displacement because we all do this. We displace all the time. And displacement is when, just like repression is forgetting, displacement is when we're taking something out on someone else, right? So if I have a horrible day, let's say I'm angry at my boss, I can't do what that little devil is telling me to do, which is probably to kill my boss. else, right? Because we said the devil and the angel, the id and the superego, are always going to extremes. Well, I can't do that. But to quiet that little devil down, I can take those feelings out on someone else, right? So maybe I have a horrible day at work. I'm really, really angry at my boss. Unconscious feelings would say I want to kill them, even though consciously I don't. Instead, I come home and I take it out on a safe target. Like I snap at Sophia or Jason, or I slam a door, or I throw something across the room. All of those are examples of displacement. We all get it. I used to call it the kick the dog defense mechanism, and students got mad at me for that term. Don't kick your dog. It's the slam the door. All right, rationalization is when people come up with an excuse for something. It's really simple. It is making an excuse. You're talking away the anxiety that's being brought out by these two little guys on your shoulder, right? So you're creating an acceptable excuse for that uncomfortable situation. A couple of funny cartoons. The woman rationalizing why she can't lose weight because of her metal fillings, and her refrigerator's magnetic, so she keeps getting pulled into the kitchen. Or I like the Girl Scout cookie season as the season of rationalization, right? If I eat the whole box now, I won't be tempted later. Right. It's a dumb excuse, and a lot of times rationalization is often dumb excuses, but it works. I'm going to show you a quick clip from Friends of rationalization.
You see what I see?
It's still there.
Mrs. Braverman must be out.
Sorry.
She could be out of town. Maybe she'll be gone for months.
By then, the cheesecake may have gone bad. We don't want her to come back to bad cheesecake.
No, that could kill her.
Well, we don't want that.
No, so we're protecting her.
Well, we should take it.
Yeah, but we should move quick.
Why?
Because I think I just heard her moving around in there.
Go, 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 go.
I hope you could hear that, but Ross and what's her name were making an excuse for why they needed to steal, I guess, a cheesecake, right? Illogical excuses, but they talked themselves into it to reduce the anxiety, in particular to probably shut up the superego who was telling them no, 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 but to make the devil happy who is saying yes, yes, yes. All right, the next one is projection, and projection is one that can be a little difficult to understand. I love explaining it in the classroom because we have a projector, right? So that projector in the room, I would always say when you get to a test question, look at the projector and think about what the projector is doing, because that is exactly what we are doing when we're using the defense mechanism of projection. We are projecting our feelings onto something else, just like that projector is projecting that image onto the whiteboard or onto the screen. Oh, I just really put my hand up there, didn't I? You are projecting your feelings onto somebody else. I like to think of this one as it's not me, it's you, right? So when you say to somebody, I don't have a problem, you're the one that has a problem. Or I'm not angry, you're the one that's angry. We're using projection because maybe we really do have those feelings. We're just saying, no, it's not me, it's you. You're the one that feels that way. An example would be, let's say there's a man who believes his coworker is attracted to him. And he may say to himself, the little devil's going to town, right? Going, yeah, 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 you know, this is great. Whereas the superego says, no, you're in a relationship, this would be a horrible thing to do. So instead of having to own those feelings as your own, projection would mean you would say, no, I don't like that person. That person is attracted to me, right? It's not me, it's them. Okay. All right, the last one is denial. Super easy. We all know what denial is, right? Denial is to simply deny it, to say it doesn't exist. It's different from repression, where we would say it was forgotten. Denial says, no, that's just not true. That's just not the case, right? Like the dog's in denial. I never wanted to lick my butt. Nope, me neither.